Today we're going to review how to find percentages in real-life financial situations. You guys might have heard of a proportion that can help you find percentages of different numbers. So we're going to review that now. If you want to write that on the top of your practice packet that you're given, that might help you out a lot. So the proportion is going to be your percent over 100, no matter what the percent is. It can be 5%, it can be 127%. It doesn't matter what the percent is, it just has to be over 100, and it has to equal the is over of in the situation. So this proportion is going to help us with most problems that we are going to have in this entire financial literacy practice packet. So make sure you write that on the top of your papers, and we're going to now go into some examples that you have in your packet. The examples I'm going to work on in the first page of your packet that says percent problems on the top are going to be 2, 4, and 6. You will complete all of the problems, but these 3 problems are going to help you guys find the correct answer. So the number 2 says, what percent of 33.5 is 21? So remember, we have our proportion that we just wrote down. It's percent over 100 equals the is over of. So we can focus on what our words are saying. So we don't know what percent, right? They say what percent. So our percent is going to be the unknown. I'm going to put an X in for that. The 100 is always there. And it's going to be equal is over of. So when it says what percent of 33.5 is 21, we're given the is over of. The is 21, and the of is 33.5. Now, you should have some experience of solving proportions. I like to make an algebraic equation where you just cross multiply. So if I did that, I end up getting 33.5x equals 21 times 100, which is 2100. Then you go ahead and to get x by himself, you divide by 33.5 on both sides. So when we solve for that, we get x is equal to 62.7%. And I'm rounding it to the nearest tenth because our directions say so. They say round to the nearest tenth or tenth of a percent. So when I rounded, because it was 62.69, I rounded it up to 62.7, and I do label it because we're finding the percent of these numbers. So when you find what 62.7% of 33.5, it's 21, and that is your answer. Now we're going to go to the next example. So 41% of 78 is what? And these are going to help us with our proportion. So we put our percent, which we know is 41, over 100, and set it equal to, we have the 78 is of, we don't know what is yet, so that's our unknown. Again, you cross multiply and divide like we did in the previous example. So when I go ahead and do that, I cross multiply 41 times 78, then I divide by 100, and I get 32. And that is going to be what 41% of 78 is. The last example we're going to do is just a little different. We have 58% of what is 63.4. So we have 58, which is our percent, always over 100. And then it equals to is over of. Well, is 63.4, and our of is what? We don't know, so it's an X. Again, you guys cross multiply and then divide. When we cross multiply, we get 6,340, and that's equal to 58x. So in this example, I went back to how I did it in the first example. I created an equation. Then you divide both sides by 58. We end up getting that x is equal to 109.3. You guys can use calculators as you're answering these problems. This is how you will do all of the problems on the first 2 pages of this packet. Make sure you label your questions and your answers. So if they're asking for a percent like we did in number 2, that means that we have to label it as a percent. If you're looking at other problems, like maybe Number 11, they're asking about miles, so your answer has to be in that same unit. You have to label it as miles. So just read carefully. Sometimes you won't have to label your numbers, just like we did in 4 and 6, but you will have to otherwise. Please make sure that you are rounding to the nearest tenth, that is 1 decimal place. On the last couple pages of our packet, we are now going to use real-world word problems to solve using percents. We're going to do the first 3 together, and then you guys will be able to do the rest. The first example says, a bicycle is on sale for $189.50. The sales tax rate is 5%. What is the total price? So what we have to do is find 5% of $189.50 or $189.50. When we find the sales tax rate, we then have to find the total price, which is adding them together. So our first step is going to be finding the percent. So we have the percent over 100 equals our unknown, because we don't know what that number is going to be. And then we have it's over $189.50. Okay, just like in the entire worksheet before, you cross multiply, then divide. When I go ahead and do that, I end up getting $9.48. And most of these examples, we're talking about money, so we have to make sure we're labeling. So the sales tax rate that we get is 5% of that bicycle's price, and that's $9.48. Now we have to find the total price that we pay the store. So all you have to do, the second part of this problem and the last part, is add the 2 together. So you line up your decimals. You guys can also use calculators if you wish, but you go ahead and you add them together. And you get, whoops, that's 18. You get $198.98. So the bicycle was $189, and then the sales tax was over $9. When you add it together, that's how much you end up paying for the entire bicycle and are able to leave the store with it. Example number 2 is a very similar situation that you guys can encounter when you're out with your friends at dinner. So Rosa and her friends are eating out for dinner. The bill was $45.80. They want to leave a 20% tip. How much should they leave? So we just have to find out what 20% of 45.80 is. Then they can find out how much tip to leave. So we put our percent over 100 and set it equal to our unknown. We don't know what 20% of 45.80 is. So we go ahead and do that. When you cross multiply and divide by 100, you end up getting the answer of $9.16. Another way to find the percent of a number is multiplying with decimals. So on this problem, what I did personally was I found the decimal version of 20%. So 20% is the same thing as 0.20. And you multiply it to the number. So you do 45.80 and you multiply it to 0.20 and you find your answer. The answer is $9.16. Make sure with money, no matter what you do or if you need to round it to the hundredths place, because money only goes to 2 decimal places. The last example that I'm going to do with you guys is about buying different shirts and whatnot when you're shopping and then figuring out the sales tax rate at the end. Whenever you're buying clothing in Missouri, you have that additional sales tax that is added on to your price, so you don't pay the outright amount, you have to pay a little more. So we have Rick's order. He had 3 shirts for $18 each, 2 pairs of socks, and they were $3.99 a pair, and then a pair of slacks for $45. So we need to know how much all of that is. Then the sales tax rate is 8.5%. We need to know how much did he pay completely. So when we have 3 shirts, if they're at $18 a piece, we just have to do 18 times 3. That is 54. His 2 socks, if one is $3.99, well, we need to buy 2, so you do $3.99 times 2, we get $7.98. And then you have that one pair of slacks for $45. Now what we have to do is figure out how much he's buying in clothing completely. So you have to add up all of those numbers. We have 54, 7.98, and 45. Make sure you line up your decimals. Remember, on whole numbers, your decimals are at the end. When you go ahead and add them up, you end up getting $106.98. That is how much all of the clothes cost, but we still have to worry about that sales tax. So we have to find out what 8.5% of $106.98 is. So just like I explained in the last example, you can set up a proportion, that is completely fine, or you make 8.5% into a decimal, which is 0.085. What you do is you multiply 0.085 to your price. You do not have to line up decimals when you're multiplying. So when you multiply this amount together, you end up getting, I'm labeling it with dollars, $9.09 as your answer. So what that means is we have an additional $9 that we have to add on to our $106. So we have to add these two together to see the total price. So you add $106.98 plus $9.09. When you add them together, you end up getting $116.07. That is the total amount that Rick will pay for with all of his clothing and with the sales tax at the end. The rest of the examples are just like this. You guys will work through all of them and help each other if needed, but you just need to find percentages of different items and then you add them to your price if needed. Make sure you underline and circle important parts of your problem.